Environment. What is environment? So we are going to discuss today environment chapter, the totality of surrounding conditions in a which organism serves is called the environment. Environment is a composed of both living and non-living component, and proper balance between the biotic and abiotic is known as the living or survival of the living organism. So plants, like if we are talking about the convert biotic factors into the food for the animal through the photosynthesis. So animals, all living organism depends on other organism for the food and for the balance of the food. Or so that's why grass, then deer, then tiger, then vulture, then microorganism, then back to the, like, this is the food chain. First is grass, then deer, then tiger, then vulture, then microorganism. Light is very essential for the photosynthesis, and medium for the biotic reaction, like regulation of the body temperature, habitat of the aquatic plants and animals. Temperature is essential for the functions of the environment, and atmosphere is contain the surrounding of the gases, and substratum is like the soil, deep water, and the wind for the surface. Okay, now next one is like ecology. Ecology is the scientific study of interrelationship between the organism and the environment, and the term ecology was first coined in 1869 by the German biologist Ernest Haeckel. So organism is the individual, and population is a group of organism of the same species inhabited on the area. So organism is the individual, and population is a group of organism for the same species inhabited in the area, and the community is a group of different but in interdependent species, plants, animal living in together. So see, organism in the individual, organism is a single individual. Population is a group of organism. If this is a group of organism, that means that is the population inhabiting in a given area. And community is a group of different interdependent species. Community is the different. Okay, population is the single organism in a large group, in a large same species of the large group. But community is the different groups of the different areas. So community is a two different, three different. Or an ecosystem is formed by the interaction of the community of the organism with the physical environment. So there is the organism. So if organism is interaction with the environment, that is not the ecosystem. Okay, ecosystem is for the organism. And the biome is a major biotic community characterized by the dominant form of plants lives and the prevalent of the environment, that is biome. And biosphere is the region of the surface and atmospheres of earth where living organism survives. Okay, and the type of the environment is the terrestrial environment, and freshwater environment, estuarine environment, and the ocean environment. This is the major four environments. Next one is factor of ecosystem. So what are the factor of ecosystem? The ecosystem is compared of the complex interaction between the biotic and abiotic component, and the ecosystem is a system formed by the interaction of the community of organisms with their physical environment. So climate factors are like temperature, humidity, lights, atmospheric pressure is there, and the interaction substance like water, rocks, gases, and minerals are there, and organic substance are carbohydrate, protein, and lipids are there. And we can say like the plants and atmosphere, phyto plants are there. So we can say like we can see here the phytoplanktons are there, and the spiroeja, chodoptera, dotansa, velovex. These are some phytoplankton. So these are the phytoplanktons: spirogia, Euthetra, and the Catophora, and the we can say Datura, and the Velovex. This is the phytoplanktons. And the heterotrophs are the zooplankton, herbivorous, carnivorous, and omnivorous. So there is the heterotrophs also. So if we are talking about the heterotrophs, then first will be the zooplankton, then will be the herbivorous, then carnivorous, then omnivorous. And the decomposer will be the bacteria and the fungi. For the we can say detrivorous and the spores also. They are detrivorous and the spores is protophores and the detrivorous are the same. So protophores and the detrivorous are the same, that is bacteria and the fungi. And the phytoplanktons are different, like if Spigogia, Eutheria, Chardopura, Detritus, and the Veilbox. Okay, So natural ecosystem totally depend on the solar radiations. So ecosystems are totally depend on the solar radiations, like the grassland, ocean, lake, water and all that. And the ecosystem dependent on the solar radiation and the atmospheric energy source such as the wind, rain and tides will be there. And the dependent of fossil fuels are like the urban and industrial ecosystem. So this was now we can see about the ecosystem. Biome, if we are talking about the biome, so biome is the large naturally occurring community of the flora fauna occupying major habitat for the forest and the deserts. So this is biome are the large community of what is community I described before. So large community of flora fauna is known as the biome, and the biome are characterized by different type of climate, flora fauna and the soil types. So climate of biome are, we can say, tropical rainforest mostly found in the equatorial region, and the characterized by the high temperature and the heavy rainfall, that is the tropical. And the temperate deciduous forests are found close to the region of central southern Europe and the North America, western China, Japan. So these trees, birches, oak, maple, cherry, and the characterized by the moderate temperate and the rainfalls. And the taiga, so taiga is the northern subarctic coniferous forest, or the boreal forest we can say, and spreading across the much of the subarctic and America, Eurasia, with the tundra in the north and the steppe on the north. So trees such as the spruce, pine, firs are abundant here. Animals like the Siberian tiger, minsk, elk, puma and the wolf rhines are the found here. Tundra is the vast trackless plain in the Arctic region where the subsoil is permanently frozen. So tundra is the region where the subsoil is permanently frozen and characterized by the lichen, mosses, dwarf and vegetable. Mostly found animal include the polar bear and the lemurring reindeer, Arctic fox and the Arctic hare. Savanna is the found mostly in the mid-tropical region, but comparatively moderate in the scene. So savanna is the for mostly in the mid-tropical region. Okay, savanna is the mid-tropical region, and that is comparatively moderate temperature and precipitation. And they are most extreme in the Africa and characterized with the scattered thorny shrubs. Animals such as the cheetah, antelope, buffalo, zebra, elephants, rhinoceros, hyena is mostly here. Grasslands are the region dominated by grasses and they are characterized by the temperature condition with low rainfalls, and though low rainfall and support large herbivores like the bison, antelope, large species of the birds and the rodents. And this now desert is the desert is inferior region of the continent with the sporadic rainfall and low humidity. So they are characterized by the plants like the cactus and euphrates and the animals of the reptiles and the mammals also. So this is about the biome, and this is about the ecosystem as we discussed before what required. Then this is about the biome. Now this is next chapter. Now this chapter is talks about tropical rainforests. So tropical rainforests have the three types now, subtypes, distribution and flora and fauna. So first is subtype, the tropical evergreen forest, tropical semi-evergreen forest, and the found in the plants high rainfalls and it in the sunlight high temperature also. Region includes the western Ghats and the western of the Odisha, and we can say Andaman Nicobar and the northeastern India. Now flora and fauna is the tree grew in the for the 60 meters or above. This region is high biodiversity and important trees is here ebony, mahogany, rosewood. These are important. Now we are going to discuss tropical deciduous forest. So this forest are the also called the monsoon forest. Tropical deciduous also called the monsoon forest, and subtype as the moist deciduous and the dry deciduous. So this is the normally there will be the rainfall 75 to 200 centimeter. Major region includes the Katrine Skype of Western Ghats and the northeastern part of the peninsular India, valley of the Himalaya and the Chota Nagpur plateau part of the part of the Madhya Pradesh and Bihar and the Odisha. Okay, so major includes the eastern part of the Western Ghats, northeastern part of the plateau of Peninsular Plateau, valley of the Himalaya, Chota Nagpur Plateau, and the part of the Madhya Pradesh and the Odisha. These are the tropical deciduous forest, and the important trees of this forest are teak, sal, and the sandalwood. Teak, sal, and the sandalwoods are the important tree of the tropical deciduous forest, and temperate teak, sal, and the sandalwood. Okay, now temperate broadleaf forest. Temperate broadleaf forest are the occur 1500 to 2400 altitude Western Himalaya. This is in the Western Himalaya, broadleaf forest of the temperate. So oak spices abundant, which is the leaves in this summer, characterized by the densely croppy tree, but grasses are generally absent, and the oak forests are often rich in the epiphytes flora. So we can find here epiphyte flora. Temperate coniferous is types of the Himalaya at 1700 to 300 altitude, and coniferous forests are characterized by the evergreen canopy, long needle leaves. We can see here the pines, devdar, cypress, spruce, and the silver fir. Okay, so this is okay. Now alpine and tundra. Alpine and tundra forests are the altitude above the 3600 meter, and these trees include the silver fir, pine, juniper, birch, and high altitude vegetables such as lychee and moses found here. Tidal forest is found along the coast and river, and the sundari trees of the mangroves are abundant in this region. And now we are going to grassland. So grasslands are the village grazing grounds and the low pastures of dry regions. Flora and fauna is the grassland. We can support here birds, large mammals, herbivores will be there, and one birds like India is a grassland animal. Now desert is the desert Rajasthan, extinction of the Sahara, and Arabian and Persian desert we can see in India. It's in world, and India is the Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, Gujarat. Run of Kutch is the Bhuj of the Gujarat. This is the Thar desert. We can found different climatic conditions. Run of Kutch is the support to the coral and the pearls and the turtles and the migratory birds, also kingfishers, cranes, loins, many prani, like many species we can found here bajra, wheat, barley, maize, and jowar, all that. And the certain birds we can found here crane, Siberian crane, bustard. Okay, and the threatened mammals, Asiatic birds, and many species other than that we can found here. We can now see that. And now we are going to Himalaya. So Himalaya is the Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Nepal, and Bhutan, China. So Himalaya is the rapidly considered to be the states of Jammu Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, West Bengal, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Manipur, Tripura, Mizoram, and Meghalaya. Okay, so this is the Himalaya has the eastern Himalaya, that is the eastern Himalaya. Okay, and we can found central Himalaya, that is Nepal Himalaya, and eastern Himalaya is the Assam Himalaya, central Himalaya is the Nepal Himalaya, and the western Himalaya and the northwestern Himalaya. Okay, so in the Himalaya we can found a different kind of now Western Ghats are also, they are parallel to the west of coast of the peninsular India, and they are through the states, namely the Maharashtra, Gujarat, Karnataka, Goa, and Kerala, and Tamil Nadu also, little part of Tamil Nadu. Okay, so this is the Western Ghat, which is the Sahyadri we can say, and this is the western coast of the parallel to the western coast of the peninsula. Eastern Ghats, they are spread through to the states of the Odisha and Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. This eastern Ghats are form continuous range of this, and this is the Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna. These are rivers we can see here. United Nations Conference of Environment held Rio de Janeiro, which is talking about the conservation of this region. Okay, and this Himalaya region we can read. So this Himalaya region is a temperate coniferous forest. No, it's a endemic is in the Himalaya. So there is the Western Ghats. Western Ghats is the highest rainfall in the Western Ghats we can found. Okay, and now all right, next chapter is the aquatic ecosystem. So the aquatic zones are the aquatic ecosystem is divided into distinct zone, which region is relatively distinct plants and animal. So different between the various aquatic zones due to the depth of the sunlight, level of the dissolved nutrient, level of the salinity, temperature, and the abundance of the food. So this is the aquatic ecosystem we can varies. Now there is the two aquatic system. One is the lotic, which is the running water, and lentic, which is the still water. So lotic we can found the river, streams, creeks, and rivulet, and the lentic we can found lake, ponds, and the swamp and the reservoir. So lotic is for the lotic. So this is river, stream, creek, and rivulet, and lentic is the still water. This is a lake, pond, swamp, and reservoir. Now marine ecosystem we can found the sea is the Arabian, Bay of Bengal, Ocean, Indian Ocean, Gulf of Mannar, Gulf of Kutch, Gulf of Khambat, and the continental shelf also. And estuaries are the include ecosystem of coastal bay, river mouths, and the tidal marshes. So estuaries include the three parts. One is the coastal bay. If there is a coastal bay, that will be the estuary, and river mouths, where river opens their mouth, that is called the estuary. And the tidal marshes, if there is a tidal marshes, that will also the estuary. And estuary are of highly productive than the river or sea system. Okay, this is highly productive. So so we discussed this, and this was what, this was about the tropical rainforest we discussed, and this is estuaries. Now we are going to discuss about estuaries. Okay, so estuaries is the junction between the two or more diverse ecosystem. So estuaries of the ecotone. So we will find the estuaries of the ecotone, where we can find the mangrove, grassland, estuaries, and the river banks. Okay, so characteristics of the ecotone. Ecotone is it's maybe very narrow or quite wide also. So ecotone may be narrow and the wide also. And ecotone is a zone of the transition zone. Okay, so ecotone can be correctly spatially evolved, under which entirely different like two biome or two ecosystems are merged to each other. So that is called the ecotone. So zone of function between the different ecosystem, like the mangrove, grassland, and the ecotone is known the zone of the functions between two different ecosystem. So that is known the mangrove, grassland, estuaries, river, and the characteristics is the narrow or maybe wide also, and the tension will be there, and the different from the adjoining importance. Okay, so this is the ecotone we can say. So ecotone is the different community will be theirs, and this is a transaction zone between the two ecosystem. So ecotone is the zone of junction between the, it's a functional zone, or we can say zone of junction between the two diverse ecosystem. Next one is biological relationships. So we can talk about the biological relationship. Ecosystem is the complex network relationship among the various organisms. Okay, so formation of relationship is the interspecific relationship and intraspecific relationship. So interspecific relationship is what? It's a relationship in the interaction of the among different individual. So different individual will be there, and relationship of the interaction among individual and different species also. So there is interspecific relationships. So interspecific relationships may be direct or the indirect also. And now where is the positive relationship is the commensalism. There is the many relationship, we can say commensalism, mutualism, amensalism, predation, and the parasitism and neutralism. So first is the commensalism. So relationship between the two different species, when the benefits to the one species, but no, without disturbing the another one. So that is known the commensalism. It's a benefit to the only one species. And the relationship between the trees and epiphytes plants are the commensalism. First and the trees and the epiphytes plants. And the relationship between the two different species organism, that is interdependent to each other, that is not the mutualism. And this is the associated between the two species, which are both our species are benefits. And symbiotic mutations and relationship mutualism will be there. So we can found in the symbiotic relationships in the coral species, we can say zooxanthella is with amensalism in the relationship between the species, where one is the benefiting but another is not benefiting, and he is hurting to another one. So penicillium killing the bacteria are the example of the amensalism. Predation is the relationship with the predators species, and this is like it's harming to another species, and which is like the predations. And the many ecological Bacteria, virus, parasites are the example of the parasitism, and parasitism is to killing to someone. Okay, so this is okay. Neutralism is the neither he is benefiting to another, neither he is hurting to another. They are in a relationship between to each other to interact with each other without hurting or without interacting. So we can say ecosystem is a complex networks and among individuals. So introspecific direct and indirect relationship will be there. So we can see here the commensalism plus minus, and the mutualism plus plus, commensalism plus minus, and predation is minus minus. So this is the relationship we found here. Now next one is the food chain. So see, community of the organism where each member is eaten in by turn by the another member is called the food chain, and the trophic level is the each successive stage in the food chain is called the trophic level, and in every stage some energy is lost into the system or heat energy and is not available to the next trophic level. So type of the food chain will be the grazing food chain and the detritus food chain. So grazing is for the autotroph and herbivorous carnivorous, and detritus for the dead organism, and the detritus feeder and the carnivorous. So we can see here the grasses, deer, tiger and vulture. First is grasses, deer, tiger, vulture, and grasses represent first trophic level, deer second one. Okay, so we can see here food web is the network of the interconnection food chain in the ecosystem, and an ecosystem may consist of several interrelated food chains, that is called the food web in totality. And this single organism can take part in the multiple food chains. Single organism can take part in the multiple food chains, and the energy flow in the food web is similar to the flow of the energy in the food chain. So this is a single organism, then energy flow in the food web is similar to the flow of energy in the food chain. So the difference is what? A food chain is trace only one pathway of the food and energy transfer among few different organisms in an ecosystem, and a food web will illustrate all the possible transfer of energy. So food chain is the only single pathway to the transfer the energy, but food web is the all the possible energy transfer in the among the organism and the ecosystem. So ecological pyramids are the graphic representation of the trophic in the ecosystem. Ecological pyramid, we can say the pyramid of the number, pyramid of the energy, pyramid of the biomass. So what is the pyramid of the numbers? It's a upright and inverted both. Okay, but energy pyramid is always in the upwarded. Energy pyramid never inverted, and the represent among the energy stores in the each trophic level. And energy now pyramid of the numbers is representing the numbers in the organism in the such trophic level, and the numbers is individual decrease the gradually in the we are going to the upper part of the trophic level. So grassland ecosystem, number ecosystem is gradually lower the trophic levels for the higher trophic level. So forest ecosystem is also part of that. Now we are going to discuss about the biomass pyramid. So biomass pyramid is the individual in each trophic levels weightage some biomass, and it's a calculated to dry weight all the organism in the trophic levels particular area. And biomass pyramid are terrestrial ecosystem upright, and biomass pyramid is aquatic ecosystem is inverted. So it's a terrestrial ecosystem is upright, and the biomass pyramids aquatic ecosystem is the inverted. So terrestrial ecosystem is the upright, and the biomass pyramids aquatic ecosystem is the upwarded. Aquatic is the upwarded. Okay, so this is the we can say the example. Next one is the communalism and the magnifications, bioaccumulation, biomagnification, and persistent pollutions. So bioaccumulation is the increase in the concentration of a pollutant from the environment to the first organism in a food chain. So persistent toxic accumulate in a fatty tissue of the organism if they cannot process the extreme. Then this building of the high concentration of persistent toxic in an organism is called the bioaccumulation. So bioaccumulation is a system where the concentration of the persistent toxin organism in a particular environment is known the bioaccumulation. And next one is the is a concentration of a pollutant from the environment in the first organism to the food chain. So it's a toxin accumulate in the fatty tissue of the organism if they cannot process extreme then. So building up the high concentration of persistent toxic organism is called the bioaccumulation, and the biomagnification is referred to the concentration of pollutant from trophic level to the next trophic level. So in bioaccumulation, that there is no trophic level, there is just a single tissue of organism if they cannot process to the excrete them. Like if there is a concentration of persistent toxins of organism is known the high concentration, that is known the accumulation of the bioaccumulation. So persistent pollutants are in the higher concentration, but if that they are going to the trophic level to the next trophic level the pollutant, then this is known as the biomagnification. And concentration of the toxic increase gradually, it passes through the successive trophic level of the food chain, and the organism at the top of the food chain are higher concentration of the toxics than the lower one. So we can say step 1 is the pesticides such as DDT get accumulated in the grass field, then grasshopper accumulate the 2 mm DDT, then a mouse accumulate the 20 mg DDT, then a snake accumulate the 100 mg DDT, and thus every successive stage accumulate the toxin gets the concentrated rapidly in the food web. Okay, and the persistent pollutants are the chemically stable toxin which stay in the environment for a long time without degradation. So we can found the persistent pollutant includes the pesticides and the heavy metal, mercury, lead, contamination, DDT, difluoro and the diphenyl chlorinate, radioactive isotope, flame retardant, and the industrial chemicals are there. So we can found this also. And this the amount of toxic usually measured from the fatty tissue of the animals. These are the measured from the milk and the crows of the human. So this is okay. Now next one is what? Next one is the cycles. Some cycles are there. So first one we have discussed about the carbon cycle. So the organism circulation of carbon from atmospheric into the organism and back to the again. So this is the photosynthesis. So green plant and the some other organism are using the sunlight to synthesize nutrient from the carbon dioxide and water. Photosynthesis, the plant generally involve the green pigment chlorophyll and generates the oxygen byproducts, and the forest act as a reservoir for the CO2 for the carbon is fixed in the trees and remain stored in them for the long periods, and destruction of the tree leads to the release of the stored carbon back into the atmosphere. Or this is the photosynthesis. And now respiration is the process of respiration involve the oxidation of the foods and liberation energy CO2 in the water. So CO2 released into the atmosphere by the process of respiration. And decomposition is the biomass of the plants and animal become food to decompose on the death. Okay, this is the decomposition, and biomass of the dead organism and the matter is decomposed by the microorganism, and the CO2 is released into the atmosphere. And the combustion is the burning of the biomass release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So combustion is what? The burning of the biomass release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So nitrogen is an essential component of protein which is vitally important for the all living organisms. So nitrogen is an essential component of the protein which is important vitally for the all living organism. Nitrogen fixation is converted the gaseous nitrogen into the ammonia for utilization of the plants and nitrogen fixation. So atmospheric fixation is the lighting combustion volcanic activity. Okay, so we can found in the nitrogen the lightning and the volcanic activity. Industrial fixation is ammonia, and the nitrogen hydrogen will be in the temperature and generates the high temperature. Now the bacterial friction is the symbiotic relationship nostoc, azotobacter, cyanobacteria. This is independent symbiotic relation noctur, azotobacter and cyanobacteria. Rhizobium roots we can found there also nitrogen. So this is the nitrogen cycle where we can lightning and the combination of the volcanic activity, industrial fixation, bacterial fixation, nostoc, azotobacter, cyanobacteria. So these are nitrogen fixation. And nitrification is the nitrogen compounds essential for the plants, and nitrification is the process of conversion of ammonia into nitrate and ammonia into nitrite. So it's a nitrococcus and nitrosomonas. These bacteria are there. Assimilation is the conversion of nitrogen into the organism molecule called the protein, DNA, RNA. So this is not the assimilation, which is the conversion of the nitrogen oxygen into the DNA, RNA and the protein. This is not the assimilation. And ammonification is the conversion of the nitrogenous waste product into the urea and the uric acid and the remains of the organism back into the inorganic bacteria. So this is not ammonifications. And denitrification of the conversion of the nitrate back into the gaseous nitrogen of the of the bacteria is called the denitrification. So ammonification is the conversion of the nitrogen waste products such as the urea, uric acid into the remain of organism, and the denitrification is the conversion of the nitrates back into the gaseous nitrogen for the bacteria, and the called the denitrification. Okay, now next one is very simple. Next one we are going to discuss the ecological succession. So the process of which communities of the plants and animal species in an area are replaced or change into the another over a period of time known to be the ecological successions. Okay, so this process of continuous community replacing to the another community until stable and mature community is stabilized. So it finally leads to the establishment of relatively stable climate community. So ecological succession, we can say, the increase the productivity, increase the diversity of the organism, multiple niche in the environments, and a gradual increase the complex food web also. So type of ecological succession, initially the green plants much greatly quantity of known the autotroph succession, and then which is introduce the heterotroph greater in the quantity known the heterotrophic succession. And the primary succession takes place where the community have the existed primary successions includes the primary succession include the glacial lava flow, volcanic sand dunes, and the rocks. So this is the primary successions where the lava flows and the glacial and the volcanic eruptions, rocks, deltas, and all that. It is the primary succession. And the pioneer community is the species level is the top level of the species. In the top level is called the pioneer species. And these pioneer species are the very special type of species. If this will be damaged, then whole ecosystem will be damaged. So group of pioneer species are the positively very important. And the types of the primary succession we can see. Okay, and the secondary successions are also the biotic succession or the wait. So the ecological succession is the community plants animal species change. The another part is called the ecological succession, community replace another community, and found a climate community. So productivity, diversity, niche, and the food web will be increased in the succession initially.